Gorilla babies kept hugging each other's when Zookeeper understood why he called the vet. The early morning sun struggled to pierce the dense, artificial canopy of the Primal Grove Sanctuary, a sprawling 6-acre habitat where the emerald ferns dripped with the morning dew and the air carried the heavy, humid scent of crushed eucalyptus and damp earth. At the heart of this lush, vibrant world lived the Moyo Troop, a family of western lowland gorillas led by a massive 480-pound silverback named Kibo. Kibo was a titan of his species, his coat a deep obsidian that shimmered like polished stone, with a broad saddle of silver that marked him as the undisputed protector of his lineage. But today, the focus of the entire sanctuary staff and the small crowd of early visitors gathering at the observation glass wasn't on the Obsidian King. It was on the two youngest members of the family, 6-month-old twins, Zola and Mosi. Zola was easily identified by a tiny, playful tuft of snow-white fur right above her left ear, a mark that seemed to catch the light whenever she moved. Her brother, Mosi, had a small, distinctive patch of lighter, golden fur on his right shoulder. Usually these twins were a whirlwind of chaotic, joyful energy, a blur of orange-tinted black fur constantly wrestling, tumbling in the soft clover, and testing the patience of the older females. But for the last 48 hours, a strange, heavy, and suffocating silence had fallen over the pair. Mark, a lead keeper with over 20 years of experience, and a man who could read the subtle shifts in a gorilla's mood like a familiar book, stopped mid-rounds when he noticed something that sent a visceral chill down his spine. The twins weren't playing. They weren't even moving. They were sitting in the center of the clearing in a tight, desperate embrace, their small arms wrapped around each other's necks so firmly it looked like they were trying to merge into a single being. Their mahogany eyes were wide, staring into the distance with a hollow, haunting intensity that looked like pure, unadulterated fear. Before we reveal the shattering medical discovery that was hidden behind that infant embrace, a truth that would leave the entire international veterinary team in a state of absolute paralyzed shock, remember to like and subscribe so you never miss another incredible story of animal intuition and the miracles of the wild. And please, let us know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. We love connecting with our global family of animal protectors and hearing your stories of the bonds that transcend words. Mark adjusted his high-powered binoculars, his hands trembling slightly as he leaned closer to the thick observation glass. At first glance, a casual observer might have thought the twins were simply seeking comfort from a passing storm or a loud noise, but to Mark's trained eye, the behavior was escalating into something far more clinical and frantic. Every time a breeze rustled the high palm fronds or the silverback let out a routine low-frequency grunt, Zola and Mosi would squeeze each other even tighter, their tiny chests heaving in synchronized rapid breaths that looked like a struggle for air. They weren't just hugging, they were vibrating with a fine, rhythmic tremor. Mark noticed a detail that made his heart skip a beat. They were pressing their small ears against each other's chests, almost as if they were listening for a specific, failing rhythm. When their mother, a gentle and attentive matriarch named Sarai, tried to nudge them toward a pile of fresh, succulent bamboo and sweet potatoes, the twins refused to let go. They moved as a single, awkward, and pained unit, dragging their bodies across the grass without ever breaking the seal of their embrace. Mark didn't hesitate for another second. He knew that in the wild, such a display wasn't just cute, it was a biological alarm. Code blue in the grove, he barked into his radio, his voice echoing through the quiet corridors. Get the emergency vet team here now. The twins are locked together, and they aren't letting go for a life-or-death reason. The veterinary team, led by the brilliant and world-renowned Dr. Elena Vance, arrived within minutes, their boots thudding against the gravel path. They found the enclosure in a state of high electric tension that felt like the air before a lightning strike. The rest of the troop had sensed the shift in the family's energy. Kibo, the Obsidian King, stood guard just 10 feet away from the infants. His amber eyes filled with a weary, protective fire. He let out a low, warning rumble as the humans approached the secondary gate, not an act of aggression, but a signal of immense stress. As the team moved in with a specialized, climate-controlled transport crate, the truth began to emerge through a high-powered, handheld thermal scan. While the twins appeared physically intact from the outside, their internal signatures were a map of a hidden, rapidly advancing crisis. The shocking part wasn't an injury or a visible wound, but a shared, invisible biological threat. The thermal map revealed that both infants were suffering from an extremely rare and devastating sympathetic toxic reaction. A new shipment of enrichment logs, intended to give the gorillas a sense of the forest floor, had been unknowingly colonized by a specific, rare type of subterranean mold. Because Zola and Mosey were twins with nearly identical immune systems and had spent every waking and sleeping second together, their bodies were reacting in a deadly, synchronized feedback loop. The toxins were attacking their nervous systems, causing their hearts to fall out of rhythm. However, the reason for the constant, desperate hugging was what left the scientists and keepers speechless. As the medical team analyzed the vitals in real time, they realized that by pressing their chests together with such force, the twins were manually and instinctively regulating each other's heart rates. Mosey's heart was racing in a state of tachycardia, beating far too fast for his small body to sustain, while Zola's heart was dropping into a dangerously slow bradycardia. By clinging to one another, they were using their collective body heat and their own rhythmic, forced breathing to act as a living, breathing pacemaker for the other. They were sharing their very vitality, their own electrical impulses, to keep each other's systems from total collapse. They weren't just seeking comfort, they were performing a desperate, instinctive medical intervention on one another that a human doctor would call cross-regulation. If they had been separated for even an hour, the pacemaker would have been broken, and one or both of them would likely have slipped into a fatal, irreversible cardiac arrest. The emergency intervention that followed was a masterclass in high-stakes veterinary medicine and raw emotional endurance. The twins were moved into the specialized medical suite, but Dr. Vance made a controversial and unprecedented decision. She refused to separate them during the treatment. She realized that their biological bond was currently their strongest medicine. They were placed in a pressurized oxygen tent together, still clinging to one another, their small hands locked in each other's fur, as the team administered high-dose, targeted antitoxins through tiny IV lines. For 72 agonizing hours, the entire sanctuary held its collective breath. News of the twin bond leaked to the public, and thousands of people began a vigil outside the gates. The twins remained in their embrace, their mahogany eyes finally closing as the medicine began to take hold and the toxins were slowly flushed from their systems. Mark stayed by the observation glass of the medical suite the entire time, barely sleeping, watching the synchronized, now peaceful rise and fall of their chests. The truth that was finally discovered during their recovery moved the global scientific community to tears. When the twins finally woke up and the monitors showed that the toxins were cleared, they didn't immediately jump up to play or demand food. Instead, they let out a soft, joyous, and melodic chirp and began to meticulously groom the areas where they had been pressing against one another for days. The medical monitors showed a miracle. Their heart rates had perfectly recalibrated to the same healthy, steady rhythm. The twins' embrace had saved their lives long before the doctors could even arrive. It was a display of biological altruism and cognitive empathy that challenged everything we know about the survival of the fittest. It proved that in the heart of the wild, the strongest force isn't the one who fights the hardest, but the one who holds on the tightest. Today, if you visit the primal grove at the sanctuary, you will see two thriving, rambunctious, and incredibly healthy juveniles swinging from the highest mahogany vines. Zola still has that distinctive white tuft of fur above her ear, now a bit larger and more prominent, and Mosey still sports his light golden shoulder patch. They are a whirlwind of motion, a testament to the resilience of life. But every so often, usually in the quiet of the late afternoon, they will stop mid-play, move toward each other, and press their foreheads together for a brief, silent second. It is a lingering, sacred memory of the time they shared their very breath and the electricity of their hearts to survive the dark. Kibo, the silverback, continues to lead with his quiet, powerful dignity. But he never lets the twins wander too far from his shadow, his gaze always lingering on them with a new kind of respect. The Moyo troop has become a global symbol of resilience, and the twin bond is now a permanent case study in every major university's primatology and psychology department. It reminds us that the language of the heart is universal, and that the smallest among us often carry the greatest, most ancient wisdom. As the sun sets over the grove, casting a golden, ethereal glow over the emerald ferns, the sight of Zola and Mosey sitting together, shoulder to shoulder, is a vision of hope, a reminder that we are never truly alone as long as we have someone to hold on to when the world begins to shake. Did this story of Zola and Mosey's incredible, life-saving intuition and their miraculous embrace touch your heart today? If you believe that animals possess a deep, thinking heart and a love that can perform miracles beyond our understanding, please write yes in the comments below. Your interaction, your stories, and your passion help us spread these vital stories of animal intelligence and help fund the conservation efforts that keep magnificent beings like the Moyo troop safe and thriving. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another heartwarming, life-changing chapter from the lives of our animal heroes. Your support is the reason we can continue to give a voice to the voiceless and share the staggering beauty of the natural world with you. Thank you for watching, for caring, and for being such a valued part of our global journey into the heart of the wild. We will see you in the next story, where nature continues to prove that love is and always will be the strongest force on Earth.